My first roll of medium format on the Rolleicord V was shot using HP5. That's my go-to film. Just want to give a little rundown on my experience shooting medium format for the first time. So I was obviously very new to the experience because it's my first time shooting. But also it was the first time using a TLR camera. I'd never even held one before getting my Rolleicord. So learning to operate that, how that all worked, and seeing the results of the photos, then how the lens renders images, as well as just using square format, is all very new to me, and it was a very fun experience. Now, I've spoken a little bit about the Rolleicord and my experience with it so far on my first impressions video, but I want to talk about how I feel using medium format for the first time and what I'm hoping to get out of it moving forward. So I wanted something, there is that look with medium format mainly, and I wanted to see what that was like if I could utilize that style of shooting or utilize those results that medium format yield with my style of shooting, and how would I incorporate that. And I was really excited to purchase my Rolleicord and to be using 120 film, because I've been shooting 35mm for the last nearly 6 years. Like pretty solid as my main medium of shooting, or main medium of photography, I should say, is shooting 35mm. The first thing I noticed when I got my scans back is I opened the folder, and then obviously there's only 12 images in there. I was like, oh wow, of course. I mean, I was very aware that there's only going to be 12 images or 12 photos, because I was advancing the film. And then when I got to 12, that was the end of the roll. So once I'd taken 12 photos, that was the end of the film. And then I had to, reload the camera. But when you get them back, I got it back with a mix of 35mm rolls that I had dropped off too. So I was going through, I looked at the medium format because I was most excited to see the results. But I was still just kind of like, oh yeah, there's only 12 photos here. So that was a bit of not a shock, because I knew it was coming, but it's like when you cycle through, like I was looking at the photos and I was very, very pleased, and I'll get into that in a minute. But that initial, like once I'd gone through all of them, like, oh, there's no more photos to look at. Like it's not that it was disheartening, but it was just something I was immediately aware of. I was like, oh yeah, of course, there's way less images here. But again, depending on what camera you're using, they're gonna render differently, produce different images, and mainly what lenses you're using. Sorry, I should say, they're gonna give you different results. But in short, the photos I got back, when I was taking these photos, it wasn't on just like one shoot, and I'm just like, oh, there's all one style of photography here. I'm not shooting for a client. I'm not shooting. It's not just all like I'm on vacation or all vacation. I never say vacation. I've gone away, travel, whatever. Vacation. Anyway, you know what I mean? Or I wasn't just purely shooting street or just documenting my life. It was a mix. So I wanted to test what the camera was like, one, how it handled, and I wanted to make sure that it operated properly, because I just got it, and I trusted that it was in good nick and it all worked and everything was all square. But yeah, you don't know until you take the photos. I was worried there'd be light leaks. My focusing might have been off. I might have not exposed properly because I didn't use a light meter for any of it. They're all exposed fine. And as I spoke about earlier in my no meter, no problem, I've gotten accustomed to shooting at 400 ISO, or using 400 ISO film. So that wasn't too much of an issue. But yeah, just the results, like there was a broad, in those 12 photos, there was a large volume of different photos that I took. So some were just like, I've spoken about, just, I was just going for a walk with my dog and I took photos. Like that was a nothing photo, but it was cool to see how, you know, how it rendered, like the resolution of the photo as well. And then there was a couple of photos that I was very surprised by. Like there was one of my daughter. It was on one of the 40-degree days here in Melbourne. And we're upstairs at my in-laws, and it was really, really dark up there. And then they have these, they're called plantation shutters. I don't know if that's what we call them here anyway. I don't know if that's the correct term for them. But anyway, they're just blinds on the inside, and they're on like louvers. And we're upstairs, and it was really, really dark, and my daughter was playing with the louvers and letting the light in, and she was looking outside down onto the street. And there was like light just coming through, and I was just like, oh, it'd be great if I could capture this image, like of just like the light coming through, and like hopefully I expose that correctly. And obviously it comes down to the lens, not so much the roll of film itself, but it's the experience of, you know, it's part of the experience of shooting my medium format camera. So it's in this, it's my first roll. And that photo in my head, when I squared it up, when I framed it up, I was like, I hope this comes out exactly like, you know, I wanted all this negative space, and I just wanted my daughter to like have like almost like an outline highlighted of her, and then the light coming through, but not be overexposed. And it come out absolutely perfect. And it's one of my favorite photos I've ever taken of her, and one of my favorite photos I've taken. And it was on my first roll. It's like, this is bliss. So when I saw that, I was like, right, we've made we can do what we want with this camera. So moving forward, I know that it gave me the confidence. It was like, right, I'm going to be able to produce the images that I foresee in my head with this camera, no trouble. And then there was another one that stood out. You know, I took a couple of, there was one that I took of this house that I drive past all the time that I really like. It's in, I think it's in Kew. I think that's technically the suburb, but you're coming out onto the boulevard, and it's just this real cool, like mid-century, I'd say it's like, yeah, it would have been built in the 60s, I imagine. It's just this really cool big house, like overlooking at the bottom of this hill, but it's on top, it's like a split level hill, and it's like at the top of this split, and it looks out, and it's just a cool looking house. I drive past all the time. I'm like, oh, I'll take a photo of this and see how it looks. And the photo itself isn't a mind-blowing photo, but again, I was like, this is exactly what I wanted to yield from this. Like I wanted like just that nice big grand feeling from that house that it gives. And I don't think, well, I know because I took that same photo on my M3. That's fine. It's partly to do with the format. Like the square format obviously gives it a bit of character, more so than just the 5x4. But again, that's the medium format, so you know that adds to it. But it adds to the look that I was going for with this photo in particular. But again, yeah, I was just super happy with like the soft, like this lens is quite soft, and most people will say that's a problem, like, and critique it and say it's shit or whatever. But what I don't want really, really sharp images. I want them to be clean. I don't want them to be like, I don't want the image to be like come out unusable and shit. But I want there to be a softness and a warmth to it. And all these images with this camera that I've taken so far has this warmth to it and this really nice balance and rendering of contrast. So again, I was really, really happy with that, how that turned out. It's not the sharpest lens. I don't think you could get away with using it for architectural photos. Maybe you could. Maybe I'll try and do that in the future. I'll try and get some really, really soft, beautiful, contrasty architectural photos with this camera. But again, that came out exactly how I wanted it to come out. And I was just really, really happy. Like, I drive past this house all the time, like morning and night, and I'm just like, I want to take a photo of this house when the light's right. And the light was right, and I took it, and I was like, cool, I can tick that box. So I was really, really happy with that. This last one that I took that really stood out to me, we were on the train. So that Melbourne, it's been open for a while, but they've done this metro underground tunnel for trains that's been going for a while. Like the work's been going for a while. And they opened them, I think, end of last year. And like for the first time, we were just in the city. We were just like, oh, we'll go have a look and see what it's like. The station's really, really cool. First time Melbourne, in my mind, has designed something that's modern that actually looks good. That'd be like, wow, that's really, really cool. Like, I reckon people should see that. So well done to the engineer and architects who did that. The rest of Melbourne, all the new, everything that's new is revolting. It is the worst architecture you could imagine. But this was beautiful. So anyway, enough about that. But we were on the train, and then I had one. This was my last frame on this roll. So I was like, okay, well, what can I shoot here? And I really wanted to test shooting in like a tight space because, again, this is like a 40mm equivalent. You know, I'm pretty familiar with shooting a 40mm focal length, but a square format, and then it's got like a different compression to what like the 40mm does on my camera. I mean, this is 65, sorry, I should say, but you know, it's equivalent to a 40mm on a 35mm camera. So I'm familiar with that focal length, but I didn't know how it would turn out. And then I was framing up this family. They were just sort of standing at the door, and they all were holding onto this rail. And it was a throwaway photo. I was like, I just want to see how this looks. And I took it, and then there's something about it. I can't actually point out what I really like about this photo, but I just really, really like it. Maybe I'll do a video of check out this photo on this photo, which is my photo, in time to come, once I figure out what I actually like about it. Maybe it's the square format of it, and like the square format gives this compressed feeling, like a closed-in feeling, because it's square. You don't have all this space horizontally or laterally, so it gives this closed-in feeling. And then they're all tight together as a family, and they're holding on into like this same rail, basically. And yeah, I was just really, really stoked with how it come out. Again, it's not a super, super sharp lens. That probably comes down to as well. It was quite, you know, it's quite dark in there. I would have had it at wide open at 3.5, and I maybe had it at an eighth of a second. I don't think I would have had it. I don't think I had it at fourth. I can't remember exactly, but the fastest would have been with a 15th. But I feel like it was an eighth because it's quite dark in there. And the same thing with the trigger on the Rolleicord. I will get like a shutter release cable, and I think you can get like one that clicks in here, just a little button that you press. That would be way easier. But you have to pull this across, and every time I take a photo, I'm paranoid. Well, I shouldn't say paranoid, but I have the feeling, especially when it's at a slow shutter speed, that I'm shifting the camera too much as the shutter is going. And if it's a slow shutter, then I'm going to blur the image. But none of the photos I took had this issue. So I was really, really stoked with it. With, you know, the handling of this camera, and then just the results of shooting medium format. So anyway, it was a bit of a mixed, I don't want to say review, but I guess a rundown of my experience, a mixed rundown of my experience with 120 film and using a medium format camera and using a TLR. So I will do another video on the Rolleicord in time as well. Like, now that I've gotten a bit more familiar with it, I've had it for a little while now. This is quite a bit after the fact. You know, I've put 5 rolls through this now. I had it for a while, but you know, I've shot it more than just one roll. Anyway, you know what I'm getting at. I've had it for longer than what I had it when I first did my first impressions. So yeah, I'll put out a video with more medium format jazz in the future. But that's my experience so far on my first roll. I've got more developed since, but I'm just talking about my first roll and my first experience and my first time. So I have lost it, you know, that medium format for the first time. You know what I'm getting at. Anyway, I hope you liked my rundown of my experience, my first time. Some people's first times, not that smooth, but mine was. So it's only onward and upwards. So I'm pretty happy with that. Godspeed, guys.